What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of the Ball to Ball series. As you guys know, every opportunity is opportunity to sit down with real men to have real talk. Today is nothing different. Today I got my guy Eric, straight out of the NBA representing, and also up from upstate New York. Eric, talk to the people, give them a quick little introduction, whether it's like where you're from, special fact, anything like that, bro.
No, first of all, just thank you, Ken, for the opportunity. We had a chance to connect, a couple months back, man. The work you're doing is just tremendous. I'm honored to be on, and just looking forward to this great conversation, talking about some great stuff. So first, as I mentioned, Eric DiMiceli, born and raised New Yorker, Westchester County, grew up in Ardsley, went to Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut, played baseball up there, moved into Manhattan for a little bit. Lucky to meet my wife there, lived in the city, and moved back to Westchester, where we're in Crestwood, have three beautiful girls, Isabella, 6.5, Valentina, 4.5, and Pia, 2.5, a handful, a real girl dad. So it's kind of my quick story, but, and obviously been at the NBA, working for about 16 years now.
Nice. So, bro, let's get into some sports talk right now, just because obviously you're a sports guy. You know, I'm a sports guy. We've talked about that offline a bit. First question for you. You're in the NBA. You work for the NBA. How does that play with your allegiance to either of these New York teams? Talk to me about that.
Great question. As I said, born and raised New Yorker, Knicks in the 90s, Ewing, Starks, Mace, Oakley, the whole crew, would never miss a game. Obviously, Yankee fan, growing up playing baseball, obviously Jeter, Yankees, and obviously New York Giants as well too, Eli and the whole crew. So obviously my love and passion is with New York. Going in the NBA when I started right out of college in 2006, obviously still being a Knicks fan, but over time you learn to be universal across the board. I'm a fan of all teams, right? Of course, my New York heritage. I was just at the Knicks game last night when Trey beat up on him by 45. But honestly, I'm still a fan of sports in general. Obviously, the NBA is one of the greatest leagues, but NFL, MLB, still a huge Yankee fan, still a Giant fan, still a Knicks fan. But I'm a fan of the game now, and really our players. I would say, Steph Curry is one of the best out there. Obviously, LeBron, KD. There's just great guys on the court and off the court, and I really became a fan of players. And some of the friendships I've built there. It just shows that, they are these amazing star athletes, but they're also real people too. And their fathers, their brothers, they're, really just great getting to know them. So of course my allegiance is still to New York, but, still a fan of all teams. Just want to see a great kind of, as we head into the playoffs soon, can't wait to see who comes out on top this year.
Oh man, I have so many questions. And one thing I'll mention now that we'll circle back to is you mentioned how these athletes, right? They're not only great players, but they're real cool and great people off the court too. So many people, so many fans see these athletes on TV and sometimes don't look at them as real people. Like they almost think they're superheroes. But now we're starting to see in the NBA and the sports world in general, how these athletes are coming out and talking more about the things that really affect them because they are everyday people. They talk about mental health, whether that's Kevin Love, Naomi Osaka, et cetera. So I want us to, we'll get to that down the line, like how you've seen that play out in the league and your thought process of like the benefits of these people coming out and speaking about those kind of things. But let's stay in the sports lane right quick. Favorite memory in Madison Square Garden coming up, because you were talking about that great Knicks era, so you had to see some games. I'm hoping you saw at least one Jordan game at the Garden. Tell me about your favorite memory, bro.
Yeah, that's a great question. As a fan, I have to think back probably to LJ and the 4-point play, right? That obviously, I was not at that game. I didn't get a chance to go to as many games back in the day as I get to go to today, but probably as a pure Knicks fan growing up, just that moment and that momentum was tremendous. I still think back, I have a John Starks jersey that I actually got him to autograph eventually over time, and I have it in my house somewhere. But John Starks and the dunk, I just, that was my childhood, living when the Knicks, and the rivalry. I remember every Sunday on NBA on NBC back in the day, Knicks Heat, Knicks Pacers, Knicks Bulls. Those rivalries is just tremendous of how they came to life, and you feel like the entire state of New York and whatever team we're playing against, you feel like that energy was there, whether you're in the building or at home watching. And like I remember being on like at family gatherings, and everyone, we have the game on in the middle of the day, we're supposed to be eating, but no one's eating at the dinner table. Everyone's sitting in the living room with their food in front of them, watching the Knicks Pacers. Obviously the Reggie Miller days with Spike and all that stuff. Had to be some of that. Obviously, MJ and what he did to the Knicks over the years is hard to relive, but there were so many great memories. Just the intensity of the game then. I just can't. And again, I played basketball, baseball, and football growing up, right? And at one point, basketball was my favorite sport when I was younger, right? And obviously, I'm only 5'10". You can't see it here. I'm only 5'10", and I played into high school, but that was not where I was going to go and play any further. So that was, but again, still one of my first passions, and I always, like credit that to Patrick Ewing, John Starks, Oakley, and that crew, because those were my, like role models growing up, those guys on the Knicks. And then obviously over time, shifting to baseball a little bit more with, Jeter and the crew. But that was some of the best memories watching those Knicks games back then.
Yeah, bro. Yeah. Like not being from New York, even though I lived there for a while, never being from there, but always hearing about the legend of MSG. It was really cool to see, the Knicks made the playoffs last year, like for the first time in quite a while. And to see how electric the Garden was, I'm like, wait, you got a Harden, KD, Kyrie down in Brooklyn, and that arena the energy that I could feel from watching at MSG. I was like, why isn't they don't have that same energy at the Barclays? Like MSG is rocking right now.
100%. Even the other night, like I said, obviously Trae Young has become, this new, when he comes into the Garden, goes off. And again, but he plays into it great too. It was great to see that banter between, the fans and Trae, and he lives up to it. It's like the new version of Reggie Miller in the Garden there. But yeah, that energy, no matter if the team's doing great or not, it's just great to be in that environment. And and you've seen it all the way from back in the day. It's the Mecca, right? Madison Square Garden. People want to be there, whether it's a concert, the Knicks, the Rangers, whoever it is. It's just an amazing experience. Like you said, you just can't get that anywhere else. And it's funny how I always think like, oh, I'm a New Yorker born and raised, so you think it's the Garden because you're a New Yorker, right? But even other athletes that come into the Garden that play there say it's a special place to be. The energy, the lights, and like every other arena has all that same stuff. But it's just like when you're in New York, basically on Broadway, it's a different setting, not just for the fans, but even when these guys talk about coming in, it's a magical moment, and it really has made magical memories at that building. How many different things have happened there?
Wow, man. Last thing in sports, man, before we kind of get into what we're really here for, we have to talk about this one unique part of your journey that we kind of just talked about a little bit earlier before we got on camera. But I know that you spent some time working with the Danbury Trashers, which now is like, almost a cultural phenomenon, this amazing story that many people didn't really know about until the Netflix documentary. Tell me about your time working there, bro.
Absolutely. So it's the Danbury Trashers, right? So
Trashers, yes.
So we obviously, obviously the NHL has the Thrashers, right? But it's the Trashers. And back in college, like I said, I went to Sacred Heart University in Fairfield, Connecticut. I was going into my, I guess it was during my senior year. I'd stopped playing baseball my junior year. Senior year, I was looking for an internship. Went through kind of our internal education job kind of like program that Sacred Heart had, and they found me this job. I'm like, oh, I'd love to work in sports, right? I always wanted to play Major League Baseball, right? Obviously that wasn't going to happen. So I'm like, why not work in sports? So this opportunity came up, the Danbury Trashers. It was the second year of it. I'm like, that sounds interesting. It's in Danbury, Connecticut. I wasn't playing baseball anymore, so I had some free time. So I went on an interview, literally to the Danbury ice rink. which is about 25, 30 minutes from Sacred Heart University. Went on an interview. I was so nervous going into it. I remember it was my first real interview, and my uncle, who is an executive in the fashion world, has his own company now too, Surfside Supply Company, which is a great new company that he launched. I went to him. I said, "Hey, can you get me dressed for this interview?" And again, it was an internship. He got me set up, and I got the job. So hopefully, it was a look on top of just the interview process that got me the job. But that was my first touch point in sports, and I was a sales and marketing intern. It was for the duration of the season. I was doing everything from scouting of what different partnerships and business opportunities from a marketing partner standpoint, as well as from a sales perspective with selling tickets, right? So I was going door to door, restaurants, banks, bars, businesses, to see who wanted to get involved and drum up excitement about the next season to come. So fast forward there, at first I had no idea what was going on there, right? Yeah. I thought it was a minor league hockey team. It was the official the United Hockey League, UHL. So it's like a step down or so from the AHL, which is the minor leagues of the NHL. I'm like, all right, this is cool. Seemed legit. They had a great logo. You mentioned the Trashers. It was a trash can with a hat on top, eyes coming out with a hockey stick. And it turns out is that the parent company of the Trashers was this guy who was very, very clear, James Galante, who dealt with the FBI and others for his activities. And he bought this hockey team because he's resident of New Fairfield, Connecticut, bought it for his son, who was a great hockey player growing up. And he bought it for him. And his son, who I think at the time was 21, 22, not even, actually, no, he was 16, 17, younger than I was, running the hockey team. But they had a whole operation, right? They had a general manager, they had equipment managers, they had coaches, obviously, and he was about winning. He wanted to win, and he wanted to build this brand, the Evil Empire, they called it, and it literally was that. The fan base for this team was something I've never seen before. I always loved hockey. I said Ranger fan growing up, but never played hockey myself. So I'm like, all right, this is cool. Going to those games, seeing the environment, being part of it with the team, with the ownership group, and they were about winning, whatever it took to win, whether it was yelling at the refs, whether it was paying guys extra money, giving them cars, giving them housing. And the funniest part about it, I would go pick up my very minimal paycheck for a game check from the trash hauling place. So they had offices, and I'd go in the yard, walking through garbage trucks, and I'd pick up my paycheck. And at the time, I literally didn't even know what was really going on, right? It was, hey, that's the parent company. I figured what it was. And then over time, learning a little bit more about it. And at some point, the ownership ran into, law issues, but it wasn't really that, it was known in Westchester, but no one really talked about it. And then last year, the documentary came out, and I didn't even know it was coming out until one of my college teammates texted it to me. He goes, "Yo, did you see this?" I said, "What?" And I saw it, and I clicked it. I said, "Trashers, no way." And it was a trailer for it. So I'm like, oh God. So I'm like, no way that this is coming out. And I watched the whole thing. It was amazing.
It was good. It was great.
James' son, AJ, who was obviously the figurehead in it, who owned the team, being a 16, 17-year-old kid. But they were honest with it, and they told the whole story. And I know there's a lot of challenges, and unfortunately, the team went away after that because of several challenges. But it was such a unique experience. Putting a quick bow on it, it was that I learned so much from it, from the sports entertainment world, right? Sales, how hard it is, how many different hats I wore. So I was doing everything from, like you said, again, just as an intern too, but you only had a couple people working at the team because it was a smaller market, smaller team. So I was, like I said, doing sales, doing marketing, doing game night. So I would actually go on the ice. They did this cool thing. They gave out, it was a raffle, basically. You got a puck. So you paid $5. You got 3 kind of foam pucks, and it was like a 50-50. Half it would go to charity, half you could win. And at one point during one of the intermissions, everyone would throw the pucks on ice to hopefully land it in a bucket, right? So you had 1,000 little pucks on the ice thrown from the stands. And one of my jobs as working game nights, you'd go on the ice and sweep up all the pucks. So, like, again, you wore so many different hats. It was just a great experience for me. And just being in sports world and being so young and not knowing anything about the sports world besides being an athlete, it was a great eye-opening experience for me. And then to learn what was really going on behind the scenes, literally that was 16 years later almost. Was it great to reflect back on the time there and how the excitement was in that building, on the road, and at home. But yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up because I haven't gone down that memory in a while. But it was definitely a unique, fun time.
Such a unique experience, man. Such a unique experience. And like me watching that documentary and also realizing like, yo, you guys had some real deal players. Yeah, some
Yeah,
real deal players. And you even got some, because there was the NHL lockout, right? Or something like that. So y'all
exactly.
was
So
able
yeah,
to
two
actually
players
have
came
some,
down.
yeah. So like, dude, what a crazy thing to be a part of. That's amazing, man. Really
It's really
amazing.
something else. It really was.
Nice, 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 man. So, bro, obviously here at Come Home, there's a big focus on the hair loss journey as well as manhood. But with the idea of Come Home, we always ask men on this episode, what does the idea, the concept of home actually mean, right? Like, so you grew up in New York. Tell me about when you think about the term home, what memories does that bring up? Is it family? Is it upstate New York? Is it the city? What do you think about when you hear the word home?
Yeah, no. And it's funny before you get into the home, upstate New York, right? That's one thing about being home that I'm not upstate New York, right? Upstate New York is way up. But
Okay.
people tell me all the time, if you're outside the city, you're upstate, right? So
Yeah.
so Westchester always has this thing about, oh yeah, you're from upstate. I go, we're not upstate. We're only 20. Yep. My train ride is only 30 minutes to Manhattan. I'm in the office within an hour. But people always come, you're upstate New York. I'm like, no, upstate New York is Poughkeepsie. I'm not up in Poughkeepsie. So that's funny. You say that home though. That's something that people always resonate. Oh yeah, you're from upstate. I'm like, I'm not from upstate. There's a different. That's where I go apple picking. Um, so no, when you say home, obviously, being in Westchester, growing up, obviously family was super important to us. I have an older brother, younger sister. Like I said, grew up in Ardsley, went to Ardsley High School. Now my brother lives a mile to the east of me. My sister lives 2 miles to the north of me. My parents still live in the same neighborhood we grew up in. So, that family experience, obviously always being together. I remember my parents and my brothers and sisters were always at all my sporting games growing up. My grandmother was always there. They used to bring her that remember the old school, like fold out chairs that you sit, watch the games, whether it was basketball, baseball, football, always being there. Obviously, friendships too, that I still have from, elementary school, high school. But it was just like, I always reflect, I'm actually heading into my 20-year high school reunion. So obviously it's different times now with Facebook and everything else, but I talked to my good friend who I'm still very close with, who was our school president back in, when we graduated in 2002. So he's working on planning this 20-year anniversary of our class. So, but using Facebook and things like that, definitely easier to connect with folks then. Another cool fact, which just made me think of our 20-year reunion, Mark Zuckerberg, I went to high school with him.
What?
Yeah. He did leave Ardsley, so he's born and raised in Dobbs Ferry, which is right next to Ardsley. Went to Ardsley Middle School and Ardsley High School, same year as me, class of 2002. But he did leave after his sophomore year and went to Exeter, and you see that in the Social Network. They actually, in the Social Network movie about him, there's actually a scene where he's wearing an Ardsley athletics shirt. But he's born. He's from Ardsley. So that's my claim to fame, is that me and Mark, were classmates.
You got to get him to come back to the 20th reunion too. That'll be sick.
I don't know. Hopefully he'll pay for it. I don't know. Yeah, but like you said, coming home, all about family. Growing up with your friends every day on the block, playing different sports, doing different things. But I definitely miss those days. I just hope, being a father now, give my girls that experience that my parents gave to me and my brother and sister. That's what most importantly me now.
Nice. Love it, man. Love it. So, bro, man, today I see you killing it. Fresh shoot, fresh shirt, and obviously the fresh bald head, man. But we know you didn't always have this smooth, super smooth look. At a point back in the day, you had something up here, bro. So if you could take me back, whether it's middle school, high school, whenever you can remember, talk to me about what kind of hair you had growing up, bro, and what it meant to you.
Absolutely. Oh, I love talking about it because it has been a journey, right? And people forget about how important your look is, right? And you don't really think about it until you're older. Obviously, when you're younger, you want to look cool, make sure you look good in the mirror back in the day. But now it's a selfie, you got to look good, right? And not me anymore, but the new generation is all about what do you look like on a selfie, not even a picture. But so going back way back when, so, regular hair, like I said, older brother, younger sister. Me and my brother are 3 years apart, but I remember my mom always dressed us alike, and that obviously has now trickled down to my wife dressing our daughters, all three of them, exactly alike. But my brother, we would go to haircuts together, the same barber. We actually went to the initial barber that my father used to go to. So, and I remember his name was Emilio in Yonkers, always going to see him. So as young, obviously, regular kind of normal hair kids. I have some photos of like a comb over, me and my brother posing. I have a fake like gun in my belt. I remember those like nice black hair, right?
Yep.
Fast forward, I remember one summer, my father's working, my mom takes me and my brother to get what they called crew cuts then, right? And we go to a different barber, and he literally just buzzes our heads, right? So that was my first kind of close to bald. And I remember my dad came home from work and was like livid. He's like, "What did you do to their hair?" So we had these crew cuts, but we looked great. But it was the summer. It was cool. It was fine. That was probably when we were, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, right? So then at one point, my father decided he wanted to take over cutting our hair. So I remember he bought the buzzer. We do it in his shower. First my brother, then me, and he bought this thing called a flat topper. Flat topper, not flat top, flat topper. It looked like a spatula, but was obviously super flat. It had a level on top of it, so you'd make sure it was level. You put it on top of your head, use the buzzer, and shave it. So he wanted us to have flat tops like the military. They always think of like, Iceman or Maverick in Top Gun, like that flat top, right? But that military, like that's what he wanted us to be. He doesn't have any military experience, but he wanted us to have those military cuts. So I remember it was a torture, putting us on our head, flat topping us out. My mom's probably yelling in the other room, like, "What are you doing to them?" So that was one stage of it, this flat top thing. Then as I got older, obviously in middle school, that was the time of like baggy jeans, wearing a chain.
Yep.
Mushroom cut, undercut.
So
there was a point where I had nice straight black hair. I didn't undercut, come all the way over. Like I thought I was so cool. I look back at pictures, I'm like, what was I doing? So that was that. Then I got into, as you get older, remember, like I said, growing up, graduating high school in 2000, college in early, 2002 to 6, like the blowout era, like Italian, Jersey Shore, blowout, go to club, all that stuff. So I had a blowout, and that was my shtick. And like I mentioned before, my roommate, the one that sent me the link to the Danbury Trashers, he's from Staten Island, Mike Milazzo. So they're Italian, close to Jersey. We thought we were the thing, right? These two Italian guys going to Sacred Heart University with blowouts. It was ridiculous. I remember just getting ready before we go out with this crazy hair. And then at one point in college, the baseball team, we decided to grow our hair out, and we call it the flip, right? So you grow your hair long enough, and along the back of your head, your hair would flip up. So I did. So this is, again, only fast forward 15 years ago. I did have a full head of hair, like a lot of hair, was able to grow. But I realized after I did that blowout, after I did that flip, and we grew our hair out for baseball, my hair never came back the same. Wow. And that was the start to baldness, right? That's where I'll say it was a start. So that's where we got long hair. Then kind of got out of that, cut my hair at some point, and then moved on to that. But one thing I did want to, at one point, right around that same timing, my older brother, he was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma when he was 21 years old. Thank God he's in remission. He's doing great. Has a beautiful family now. But at that point, he had to go through, chemo. So he had lost his hair. He shaved his head first and lost his hair. And he was losing his hair first. My father always had bald down the middle, hair on the sides. But my brother at that time was, such a tough time for him, obviously for my parents and us. But so he lost his hair, obviously, with chemo. and he looked great with a shaved
Yeah.
head. And he never grew hair back. He's always been bald since then. He's 41 years old now. So for 20 years, he's been bald now. But he looks so much better than he ever did with hair. And he realized that once upon a time, when I was still trying to hold on to my really, short, but still had some hair. My father ended up shaving his head then too. So he had because he had hair on the side, so he had a fully bald head. The two of them looked like twins, basically, even they were 25 years apart. But my brother said to me once upon a time when I was out of college, just starting to get back in the workforce or starting the workforce, he says that I've read articles, bald men are more successful, more powerful. And I always say, you're just saying that, right? You're just saying that. But there is some truth to it. And there are some famous people out that we know, I think we'll talk about them, that are bald and are very super successful. So he always told me that always resonated in my head, but I was always say, I want to hold on to this. I want to hold on to my hair. I still think it looks good. Then fast.
Eric, how bad was it at this point? Were you kind of like losing it here? Where were you kind of balding at?
So definitely on the top. The sides would grow in, right? And I didn't even need to get a haircut on the top, really. I needed a haircut on the side. So you have to go every 3 weeks to get a cut. Otherwise, you had this crazy, like frizzy side curls, and not crazy curls, but longer. And the top would be fine, but it would look funny at that point. And that's where I'm like, So if I got a haircut, it'd look fine. When I didn't get a haircut for 2 weeks, I'm like, I'm starting to look funny, right?
Yep.
So that's where I was, starting to think about it. But I kept it short, and then fast forward to literally the pandemic when you couldn't get a haircut from a barber. So the first 6 months of the pandemic, I literally let my hair and beard go. And I looked like a werewolf. It was a joke. My wife was like, what are you doing? Because I was working from home. I'm like, let me just do this. I'm not getting a haircut. And at some point, I do have pictures somewhere of what I looked like with this beard and this hair. Again, it wasn't real long because my hair didn't grow that fast, but the sides looked terrible. So at some point I said, all right, let me buzz my own head. So I went in the backyard, used my buzzer, a buzzer that I bought when I was living in Manhattan 15 years ago to buzz my back and chest, right? And I used that. And I'm like, then my wife did it one time for me. And I'm like, this is terrible. I'm literally going outside, shaving my head and getting hair everywhere, but so I was like, this is crazy. So fast forward to 2021 Christmas, I said to my wife, I'm like, find out the best head shaver, and that's what I want for Christmas. I'm gonna decide I'm going fully bald, and this is what I want to do. But I was still hesitant then, and I said to her, get me a clipper and a shaver, because I want to just shave it first fully and have a better shaver than the one that was 15 years old. So she bought me the Pitbull skull shaver. I have it here if you want to see it. So I don't know if you guys have seen this. So
yep. Okay.
Pitbull skull shaver, which is very close, and it goes all close. But I said, you know what? I want that, but I want this one too. This is the Beast Clipper. Have you seen this too? This is like a normal buzzer for a head. Okay. But it's the same company, right? But this is more to keep it. It's not Bic, basically. It's close. Okay. So of course, Christmas comes. I get this one, and I said, let me get this one too, because I wasn't committing to it yet.
Yes.
Literally 2 weeks in, I'm like, all right, let me shave this. I'm like, and then up here, I'm like, I'm losing it, and it just doesn't look right. I look funny, and you don't realize it when you're in it. You realize it after the fact when you look back at pictures. So I said, you know what? Let me go straight to this. And for over a year and almost a year and a half now, I've committed to it. I love it. So many people have told me, you have a great shaped head for this. And I'm not saying yes or no to it, but my brother and father have great shaped heads, and genetics, and we all look a lot alike now. We used to tell a story. The NBA's office is right in Midtown New York on 51st Street. My father had a restaurant for 40 years on 51st Street, right next to the NBA offices. And then my brother worked 3 blocks over on 54th Street, right? So the three of us, at that time, they both had shaved heads. I had closely shaved head. And people that I work with in my office that didn't know if I had a brother or father in the city or in general, they go, did your brother or father work in the area? I go, what? They go, I was walking. I went up to this guy. I thought it was you, because we all look that much alike, and just being that close proximity, working together. But yeah, so I have fully embraced it. I love it now. I would, again, not that I could go back, or I would never consider. I personally think it just feels fresher.
Yep.
So I love it. So I feel like I am finally back home to where I should be, with the right head.
Welcome home, man. Welcome home, my brother. So, question, man. You loved it. When you that day you shaved, the first time you looked at it, you were with it. You were like, or did it take a day or two or a week before you got comfortable with it?
Great question. I probably was not right away with it. I was like, this feels weird. Is it gonna, because it's so close. It's even, this Pitbull skull shaver is even closer than a straight edge. It's amazing. It's so close. And of course I had to get my wife's blessing, right? Because most important. And then my girls. And they at first were like, wait a minute, Dad, you look so funny. And again, my hair was super short. I was getting a 1 on top and a 0 on the side. So it was pretty close to fully shaven. So I definitely had to get their approval. But they loved it. And now actually I have my daughters, they love doing this thing, right? They love turning it on and doing Daddy's head. And even my 2.5-year-old, who I'm worried she's gonna go on my eyebrows, she's gonna do other hair. I'm like, sit on the couch, you can do Daddy's top for 1 minute. But now I fully embraced it. It's become part of my routine. I even get other products now to make sure that I get like a post-shave lotion, things like that. But it's become part of my thing, and I fully embraced it now. Again, like you said, probably took a couple days to get used to it, looking yourself a little different now. But yeah. But now I look back on pictures of when I had a little bit of hair. I'm like, what was I thinking? Why didn't my wife tell me you look terrible?
Dog, I am crying, man. That's what's up. That's what's up, though. I love that you were able to embrace it really quickly, have the confidence, and that your wife also kind of reinforced that confidence immediately. And now you're walking around, like we say, it ball to ball, man. Pretty dope, man. Pretty dope. So let's talk about a bit more also now about how you kind of maintain now. How often are you shaving now? Like, what's that routine look like?
Yeah, great question. So at first, and it probably lasted only until a couple months ago, I was doing it randomly when I needed to, right? But I realized that's just random. And then when your hair gets a little too long, it doesn't cut as good. So just in the past probably month and a half, maybe, I got into a routine now, right? So I'm doing every Saturday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Those are my 3 shave days. Because it gets me, about a day and a half, 2 days till when I need to do it again. And that's the right point, because you go 3 days, it gets a little too long, and you start to look bald. You start to look bald in a bad way, right? Because you got the hair growing on the sides. So that every 2 days, but the Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. So I think about it so obviously Tuesday is my middle of the week, kind of just got to maintain, right? Thursday, it gets me through Thursday, and then Friday, if my wife and I are going out to dinner Friday night, and then Saturday, because it's Saturday night, the same thing, right? And that gets me through to the week. So that's basically is when I'm doing it. I don't use the Beast Clipper anymore because I don't need to. So it's just with the Pitbull. But every like I said, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, using the lotion. So I don't use shaving cream. I do this outside the shower, usually after I shower. You can do it wet in the water with shaving cream. I don't do it with shaving cream, though. I do it clean, comes out perfect. But the other thing I said, I look at you, like your beard looks great, nice, fully grown in. Occasionally I will keep the beard, but I don't like, you've probably had that a while, so you feel like it's fine. There's a point where you're growing your beard a little too long, it's just too itchy and you can't deal with it. It's driving me nuts. So occasionally I'll come with the beard, I'll leave it in for 2 weeks while I'm still doing my regular routine on top, but I'll keep the beard there a little bit just to change it up a little bit. My brother always keeps a little beard with his shaved head.
That's dope, man. It's actually unique too, because I'm getting to this point where a lot of guys I talk to are like, yo, you got to have a beard with it. Or even women like, you got to have a beard with it. So I think it's rare that you see guys do shaving face and shaving bald head, but you're doing it and making it look really good. So that's what's up. I applaud you for that, man.
It's funny you say, because sometimes I'm like, do I look too bald, right? And I think of some people that do that, but I think of what's his name? Howie Mandel, is that his name? The guy from the talk show. He's all bald. And I'm like, he looks good, but it's funny too. You definitely resonate with more like bald guys now, right? You think about him now, you see him on the street, like, oh, that's my guy, right? That's my boy. So I definitely think of some people and then some people do have some facial hair. Like my brother just works it well. It goes for him. Sometimes I'm like, all right, should I keep it because it looks good? But sometimes it's only a day or two, it looks real good. And sometimes it's too long or it's too short. So it's probably a laziness of why I don't maintain my beard regularly to keep it.
So this is a good segue because you kind of just mentioned how bald man is almost this kind of like unspoken brotherhood. Like, yo, yeah, that guy went through something I went through. Like, yeah, that's my guy when you see these other bald guys. I want to ask you a question, man, because I feel like I'm starting to see it, but I want to get your thoughts on it. I feel like we're starting to see today more than ever before, guys kind of really embracing it. Like, I feel like there was, and historically speaking, like, I think people looked at hair as beautiful. You needed to have hair. You're losing it. Go get a hair transplant. Go use these drugs. But I feel like we're in a space now where like a lot of men are willingly and openly embracing hair loss, embracing their baldness and feeling that power in it. Talk to me about that, bro.
Yeah, great, Pete. I'll touch on a couple. First of all, I completely agree. Like it's been embraced. There was a long time, even for me, right? I was doing the same thing. I'm like, I didn't want to lose my hair. I was too young to lose my hair, right? And that was always a thing. And I always kind of remember as like a fear, maybe growing up, losing your hair. I don't know why, where it came from. But I have a group chat with like 5 of my high school friends, right? And there are a couple of us on the chat that are all of us are losing our hair a little bit, right? And that is one of the running jokes all throughout years of text messages. Yo, just cut it off. Look at the size of that 5 head, right? Not a 4 head, a 5 head. And just like stop, it's so that is a running chat. But I think it's 6 guys on there. 4 out of the 6 do have shaven heads now. And we've all embraced it, but I think it has become a norm. And I think there are some people that shave their heads without that don't have to anymore because it's, like you don't need to, and it looks better. Again, definitely depends on the shape of your head, I guess. But I still think that's what people say, but it's not even that. It's like, it's going to look better. It doesn't matter the shape of your head, right? It's going to look better. It's going to look different, but it'll look better. But again, there are some iconic folks out there, celebrities, sports figures that have had shaven heads their entire lives, right? And that's what you know them as. If you put hair on these guys, you're like, what? Like, what? They don't look right, right? So yeah, I completely agree. The embracing it, and like I said earlier, that thing my brother always told me that bald men are more powerful, more successful. It's not obviously fully true, but there's some famous successful people out there that are bald.
We can't make this up, man. We literally cannot make this up, bro. So let's keep going with that. Let's keep going with that, bro. You just mentioned there's plenty of successful men out there. We like to talk about the Mount Rushmore of bald men on the Bald to Bold series, the Mount Rushmore. So if you had to think through, bro, and pick your top 4 bald man icons that you would put on this Mount Rushmore of bald men, who would go up there?
Wow. Rushmore of bald men.
Mount Rushmore. You got 4 choices.
Well, I got to start again, the guy on the wall, MJ, right? I got to start there. It's only fitting. He is iconic with the gold earring, right?
Hey, man, you see
there you go. MJ right here. So I have to say MJ is one of the iconic bald men out there, right? And just so well. And there was a time, you look back to him early days, obviously UNC, but then in Chicago, he did have hair once upon a time. And he looks funny then. Nowadays, he's one of the most iconic, I have to say, is MJ. Who was one I thought actually definitely helped this movement? Vin Diesel in Fast and Furious. I feel like Vin Diesel, Dominic Toretto, right? Dominic Toretto, embraced this tough guy, bald, muscular, like image that at that time, I remember like the racing of those cars back in the day when that came out. I think that was right around my high school days in early 2000s. I think that was part of that kind of, being bald. So obviously he's one. I thought of another one, Walter White, Bryan Cranston, right?
Breaking Bad.
He's definitely not on a Rushmore, but he's another actor that his character, that bald with the beard, definitely someone. Jeff Bezos, right?
Ooh.
Definitely one of the most successful men in the world, bald. and definitely embraces it. I probably gave you too many, but
No, okay, you got one more. You said
well,
Jordan, Bezos, and Vin Diesel, and you said Cranston. That's an honorable mention.
honorable mention. All right, I'll give you one. I'll give you one more. I'll give you Pitbull. Right?
Nice,
Look at that
nice.
marketing, babe. It's not even his. It's not even his brand. Pitbull, right?
I love it. I
Uh,
love it. I love it. That's
wow,
a good
I
one.
never even thought of that's a good one. Well, I guess I got to throw my father and brother on that list too.
Oh yeah, you got to. You got
No,
to,
that's a
man.
great question, man. I love that. I'm gonna definitely go to some of my bald guys on that now and get their take on it. I love that. That's
Yeah, man.
great.
I'm trying to crowdsource as many because I think at one day we're gonna take all these votes and we're gonna actually get an artist to draw up based on all the votes, tally the top four, and get an artist to do a dope drawing of like the Mount Rushmore of all of this.
That's funny.
Let's keep this rocking and rolling, man. So, one thing I wanted to get into, man, is you talked about it a little bit earlier, but I want to dive deeper into it. You talked about how athletes, are also real people and live these real lives off the court, but people, sometimes fans look at them as superheroes. But now again, we're starting to see how some of the pressure and how these guys and women deal with everyday life things just like we do, right? So they're starting to come out and be comfortable speaking about mental health, speaking about things they go through. And I think that's a pretty cool intersection with what we're talking about here, because hair loss also, the guys deal with emotional trauma, whether it's anxiety, embarrassment, sometimes even depression, because of that insecurity about their hair loss. So there's a cross section with kind of like mental wellness, what we're seeing in the sports world, and what guys have to do with. Talk to me about what you've seen recently in sports and how you feel about athletes being able to express themselves in this way now.
It's such an important piece. Mental health, mind health, is something that has always been there, right? But it had a negative connotation, like a negative stigma, right? If you had mental illness or you weren't feeling right, or you needed to see a therapist or needed to take medicine for it, you were frowned upon, right? It's almost like there's
You were
something wrong
crazy.
with
You were
you. You're
crazy.
crazy, right? But now, thankfully, especially in the NBA, but across all the leagues, Kevin Love, DeMar DeRozan, these guys have spoken out and said, listen, it's okay to not be 100% on all the time. It's okay to ask someone, a friend, a family member, an expert for help. And I think, going back to just sports athletes across everyone, but also celebrities too, right? They all support different causes. They all stand for something outside of what their profession is. And I think that's super important, to ensure that kids that look up to them, parents that look up to them, folks that are going through stuff that are probably more, challenging, especially in the pandemic. We all saw this, of how many parents had to become at-home teachers overnight. Kids had to wear masks in school. Kids weren't going to school; they were on Zoom. So many things, and sometimes, like, I love my three girls, but the amount of time I yelled at them during the pandemic was not fair to them, right? They don't even understand, right? They're in this terrible, and I'm trying to work. We're trying to do this and that. I'm like, I feel terrible, and then they fall asleep, and they're so innocent, beautiful girls, and I'm like, why did I yell at you today, right? But because that's what happens, and that's mental health, right? And I was like,
Absolutely.
oh, come on. No, but I think, athletes, celebrities, they're all, raising the bar for everybody to know that it's okay. But it's just such an important element to, life, right? And ensuring that we can all work together to get through, right? Everyone's going through something. Everyone has a challenge, whether it's with your job, whether it's with your friends, whether it's with your family. You're always going through something, right? And it's just something I think is super important that should be embraced, and that leads to, like, confidence, right? And being confident in who you are. And I always think back to times in high school and elementary school, and bullying, and now cyberbullying, right? It's just a terrible thing, and it's usually because of the way that you look, or the way that you speak, or the way that you're super smart, or not so smart. You're a great athlete, you're not a great athlete. And so many times the people are innocent that are getting picked on for no reason, and it's nothing to do with them, right? And that just leads to all this. And it doesn't just happen at the elementary and high school. It happens all throughout. There's bullying no matter where you are. And that leads to the issues around mental health as well. But I think it's so important for people just to be ahead of it and ensure that everyone's going through something all the time.
Yep. Wow, man. Two more questions here, bro. Two more questions. Obviously, we have this series to celebrate ball, man, to share these amazing stories. But part of it is hoping that there's guys who are out there dealing with hair loss, who are maybe dealing with this anxiety that we're talking about, this embarrassment, maybe some of these mental health issues because of their hair loss. If you know one of those guys was watching right now and they're dealing with hair loss currently, struggling through that process, what advice would you give them, bro?
Go all in. Like, this is something that it's for the better. Don't be hesitant. Don't worry. You're going to feel better, because you're probably have anxiety every day about how's my hair look today, right? Is it ready to go? Just go for it and you'll feel better. You don't have to worry about it anymore. I'm there. I've committed. I'm all for it. I don't think about, oh, when am I losing my hair? Just go all in. That's the most important thing. It seems hard to do when you're in the situation, but once you get there, you're like, wow, this is great. Well, what was I thinking for the past years, decades?
Come on home, man. Come on home. Final question to wrap this up, dog. So we talked about, the spelling of come home. We spell it in French because it actually means like a man or as a man. And the whole mantra for the business is to help man embrace their natural evolution. So when I think about growing up and what I learned of what it meant to be a man via media, things of that nature, it's totally different about how I feel about what it actually really means to be a man as I've gotten older and more mature. You are a father now as well, so I'm sure your thought process on what it means to be a man has changed so much over time, especially as you step up and take that new responsibility of being a father. Eric, talk to me about what it means, in your opinion, to be a man.
Oh, that's a great one. Definitely over time, what it means to be a boy, a man, a gentleman has changes completely, right? From when you're a young kid to trying to be the superstar athlete, to in high school trying to date girls and this and that, to being a father now and a father of 3 girls. And luckily enough, last Friday, I took my daughter, my oldest, to her first daddy-daughter dance, right? So me and, 100 other fathers with their daughters, or some with multiple daughters, like it's a completely different perspective to be a man and be a father, a parent in general. Obviously I'm lucky enough to have, my father, who I looked up to as a mentor, and a brother who I looked up to as well, and still do, both of them, to learn what it is to be a good father, a good man. But also too, I look at my mother, right? Without, good women around, you're not anything. My wife, my sister, and it's funny, I can say my sister became a hairdresser, which is even more ironic that she's a hairdresser, and at once upon a time was my barber, because I didn't want to go pay for a barber. So I was her model when she was becoming a now very successful hairdresser. But yeah, I think it takes so many different meanings over the course of a lifetime. And I'm still, getting old, but still young enough. But I'm just, honored to be a father now, be a man, be the best that I can be. But it's just so important to be, use the word like gentleman, right? So I think for me, being a father now, even more than a man, just being that father figure to my girls and the best husband I could be to my wife is most important to me.
Wow, man. Stepping up to the plate and really providing, being that leader, being that gentleman, as you said, I think is important. And man, you something you said there that really resonated with me, that actually you're the first guy that said it, and I want to make sure I circle back and kind of call it out, is you mentioned how much the women in your life play a role in you being a better man and a good man. And that's important, man. Like, I think we, sometimes today age, we fail as men to give women the credit they deserve. but none of us are here without a woman, right? So like, and it takes a real man to understand, to step up and to care for his wife, care for his family. And a lot of what we do is for them. But they play such a great role in helping shape us to be that kind of man that we want to be. So glad that you mentioned that, bro.
Yeah, no, and just one more piece on that too. Again, like I said, I've had strong, powerful women in my life. Obviously, with my mother, I mentioned my grandmother used to come to my sports games. Obviously, my sister, and being the overprotective brother, and somehow her husband was one that I used to pick on when she was dating him. I would never let him come around. I was the tough older brother, and kudos to him, he survived. And then to my wife, who is the leader of our household, who now having 3 girls, they look up to her and putting her on the pedestal because of what she runs everything here and gets things done. Like I said, I had to make sure my hair looked good to for her. But the combination of having strong, powerful women who plus men up to be great, right? We can only be great without the great women in your life. So huge kudos for calling that out. But it's such an important thing to me in my life and the way I operate, day to day.
Wow. Amazing. Guys, this has been another great episode. Eric, thank you so much for blessing us with your presence, with your stories, and just obviously with your hair loss journey, and most importantly, talking about what it really means to be a man from your perspective. Man, that was beautiful, bro. I don't think, do you have social media, Eric?
I do.
Give the people your Instagram. If anybody that's watching this that want to connect with you about the hair loss journey, they're struggling, would love to chop it up with you, learn something, then drop your Instagram so they can find you, bro.
At Demo5.
Demo5.
Plays off of DiMiceli, Demo5. My brother was Demo9. I'm Demo5. My little sister was Demo1 off our birthday. So, but
you got it.
We'd love to connect you all. Thank you, guys. This has been fantastic. Thank you for the opportunity, man.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely, man. Guys, thank y'all for tuning in. Another great episode. And as I say at the end of every episode, y'all stay bold, and we'll talk to y'all soon.